Hello, my name is Joseph Leach, and I'm going to take just the next few minutes to talk about the exegetical paper that we wrote for the class for our general epistles and revelations class. And I wanted to real quick just kind of tell you the scripture and then go from the scripture to the actual paper, and then also share with you just a little brief analysis that I have with the paper. I do want to apologize if I have a little bit of a raspy voice. I'm getting over a little bit of a cold, so I apologize for that. But let me read the scripture. The scripture for the paper itself is James chapter 2, verses 21 through 23. And I want to read you those verses, but then I want to also read you just a few more verses that I think must be included in order to come away with the proper interpretation of this scripture. But verse 21, this is in the NASB, it says this: "You see that faith was working with his works." Actually, let's back up 21. "Was not Abraham our father justified by works when he offered up Isaac his son on the altar? You see that faith was working with his works. As a result of the works, faith was perfected. And the scripture was fulfilled, which says, 'And Abraham believed God, and it was reckoned to him as righteousness. And he was called the friend of God.'" So those are the three verses that I chose to write this exegetical paper on. But as I got to studying it, I felt compelled to include verses 14 through 26. Matter of fact, most modern translations, your English translations, I believe it was 8 of them in my paper that all had the same paragraphing that would lump that verse 14 to verse 26 together. So I want to read that to you so you can see the big picture. What use it then, my brethren, if someone says he has faith, but he has no works? Can that faith save him? If a brother or sister is without clothing and in need of daily food, and one of you say to them, 'Go in peace, be warmed and be filled,' and yet you do not give them what is necessary for their body, what use is that? Even so faith, if it has no works, is dead, being by itself. But someone may well say, 'You have faith and I have works. Show me your faith without the works, and I will show you my faith by my works.' You believe that God is one, you do well. The demons also believe and shudder. But are you willing to recognize, you foolish fellow, that faith without works is useless? Was not Abraham our father justified by works when he offered up Isaac his son on the altar? You see that faith was working with his works. As a result of the works, faith was perfected. And the scripture was fulfilled, which says, 'And Abraham believed God, and it was reckoned to him as righteousness. And he was called the friend of God.' In the same way was not Rahab the harlot also justified by works, when she received the messengers and sent them out by another way? For just as the body without the spirit is dead, so also faith without works is dead." You see, by grouping all those together, you see a true relationship between faith and works. And that's what's at the forefront of debate here on these verses. And it pinpoints right down to the life of Abraham. And some argue, even Martin Luther got caught up in this and became quite critical of the book of James, declaring it the epistle of straw. And he called it that because he felt like James was a little heavy on works-based salvation. And that's not the case at all. When you go and you study the passage, what you come across is the fact that Paul and James both reference Abraham. But in both settings, they're referencing two different parts of Abraham's life. James actually represents both parts in his context. Paul represents one. And here's the difference. When it was accounted unto him for righteousness, that's when Abraham believed God. That was well before the time where he, through obedience, took his son Isaac up on the hill. You see, the difference is exactly what James says in verse number 18. And I like that verse the best out of the whole passage. "But someone may well say, 'You have faith and I have works. Show me your faith without the works, and I will show you my faith by my works.'" You see, James is not competing with Paul. He's not contradicting Paul. He's not talking about a works-based salvation. No, what he's saying is our works is the evidence of our faith, of our salvation. Those that are true followers of Jesus Christ, you will be able to tell in their life by the works, by the fruit. Jesus said in the book of Matthew, chapter number 7, he said, "You'll know them by their fruit." Throughout the New Testament, we have this picture of you being able to identify someone as a follower of Christ by the things that they do. That was the whole culmination of this passage. Why it's such an issue? The biggest thing is because people don't study it. People don't understand the context. And I think when you look at verse 14 through verse 26, you wrap those texts right around the passage that we came to study, and it makes everything a lot more clear. I hope this has been a help to understanding my paper, and I look forward to seeing your comments as I post this in just a little while. Thank you.